I want to welcome you to Hazor. Hazor is considered to be the biggest tel in Israel. Something important. Not a lot of people come to visit the biggest tel in Israel, but that's what we have here. It was one of the most important kingdoms in this area in the ancient times, I mean really ancient times, before the tribes of Israel came to this area, in the Canaanite period, if you like. And during those days, where we stand, this whole area, which is almost as the sizes of Megiddo, okay, this part was just the upper city. The fortified upper city, and the main part of the city is all this area down there. All this is part of the tel.
Wow.
It was a massive wall, dirt wall, not brick wall, that surrounded this whole part and makes it the biggest tel in Israel ever so far found, basically. Since we covered most of the land, it is the biggest. So, as I say, a very big city, very, very important, very, very good location. And once it was destroyed, we're going to talk about when and whom. It's a big problem. When it was rebuilt, they only rebuilt the upper city, the area where we stand on now, and it continued to be a city up here, again, hundreds of years till the final destruction. Hazor was a crucial city. If you remember the map we saw in Megiddo, we talked about the fact that people had to go, in order to get from east to west, they had to go north along the rivers and come down through this land, basically from northeast to southwest. And they are in the north, in the valley that you have to cross. Therefore, the major road went right by here. One of the most important roads in ancient times was right by here. So again, visual land for agriculture is not a problem. Water, they had a spring right over there. You saw there's still water today. A little here for protection and by a major road. So that's Hazor, that's the location. Very, very important. Interesting background. About 6, 7, 5,000 years ago, we have an airport. Anyway, so that's the reason to build a city here, and again, since it was on the major trade road, it was a very big success. And we know about the city not only from the Bible, the Bible mentions it more than once, different times, different stories. We also, again, not me personally, archaeologists found mentioning of Hazor in writings that were found both in Egypt and in Mesopotamia, which means that these people were connected to both sides. And it makes sense. Different times, of course. It depends who controlled this land. The Egyptians, then they send letters to the Egyptians. If people from Mesopotamia, then they send letters there. And we learn a lot about what's going on here from these letters. Very interesting. I'm not going to now. The city, location, importance of it. Great. Connected it to the Bible yet. Just to let you know, archaeologists need to dig in a certain place. Not just dig everywhere because you don't have the time and money. What they found here is the gate that connected the lower city into the upper city. And since we mentioned it yesterday and we'll talk about it again today. You know that the gate is a very important place in the ancient cities. So they decided that it's better to dig around the gate and see. They're probably right. They found very interesting stuff here.
Well, oftentimes just inside the gate will be the administrative center too. So which is why she's looking for a palace there.
Okay, well let's do the connection. You have to understand, Hazor is such a big and important city, and it's a king's city. The king was here. That from what we found in other ruins in the whole area, not in just the land of Israel, but the whole area, we have to assume that there is an archive here. The king had an archive and kept the letters and everything like that. And that's what people are looking for. Because if we will find the archive of Hazor, it will give us
It would be huge.
a huge option for a lot of information about the biblical times, about the connections. So it's the right time. For 30 years now, they're looking, haven't found it yet. But who knows?
Well, the other reason I think there must be an archive is because what they have discovered here, they have discovered a number of tablets, cuneiform tablets. Cuneiform is where you take clay, take a little stylus, you make little, looks like little trumpets, little patterns of trumpets. And it's Akkadian, Ugaritic, there's a number of Akkadian cuneiform languages. They found several here, and they know that they were locally produced, which means there was a scribal school here. And if there are scribes here, you've got to have an archive here. So it's hugely. Let me just read a couple verses with my glasses.
Which one?
Just glasses. Just from Joshua. I don't know if they'd work. Okay, so if you remember the conquest, there are 3 places that Joshua burned. So, you look great with those sunglasses. This is a fashion statement.
The alien from Lilo and Stitch.
There were 3 places that Joshua burned totally. You probably can think of 2 of them right off, right?
Hazor.
Hazor is one of them because we're here. That's right. The other 2 would be Jericho and Ai. When we get to chapter 11 of Joshua, he turned back and captured Hazor, struck its king with a sword. For Hazor formerly was the head of all these kingdoms. And as Yuval has already told you, this is the largest site in the whole Levant. 200 acres is huge. It's just absolutely huge. And it was the center of all the city-states. And so when you think about, for example, the story of Deborah and Barak, and we talked a little bit about it, and the fact that Sisera and his chariots were stationed down there in the Jezreel, you can see some of the influence that Hazor had. So, and then of course he comes back. Let's see, Israel did not burn any cities that stood on their mounds except Hazor alone, which Joshua burned. And so this place was destroyed. Now there's a number of destruction levels. I'm trying to figure out which one was Joshua as a challenge. You see the palace or temple, whatever they decided is up here, and it was destroyed. And when they actually excavated the top of the hill there, that structure, there was a full meter of ashes. It was at least a 2-story building, lots of cedar, lots of oil, and with the wind from the off the Mediterranean whipping the fire, they estimate the temperatures got up in the neighborhood of 13 to 1400 degrees, and actually deformed the pottery and took the sand, the silica, and the mud bricks and turned it to glass. It was so hot, and we got 3 feet of ashes that they excavated through. So, and it cracked the basalt ashlars. So anyway, so just that was estimated. That destruction was estimated somewhere between 1375 and 1325. Is what they've estimated for the time of that destruction. So it doesn't exactly fit either date of the Exodus. So who knows?
It's also the problem with the Bible.
Exactly.
There's 2 stories. There was that Joshua destroyed Hazor, burned it to the ground, and then we have Sisera and his
Right.
with
And
his army.
the assumption is, although it doesn't say it, the assumption is that Barak probably came back and destroyed it as well.
Which means that they had to rebuild. There's no proof it was rebuilt.
Well, actually, it was. We know Hazor was rebuilt after that. All that excavation up here at the Acropolis at the top is
Israelite
iron.
time.
It is Israelite. So, and they
Not Canaanite.
exactly, and they know that or they assume that this destruction was Israelite because all the images that they found had the head and the hands broken off, which is typically Israelite. So,
What in the 14th century BC, though, wouldn't that help support the earlier date for the Exodus instead of the later date?
some have taken it that way. So they would assume with an early date of the Exodus, this would be Joshua, or this would be Barak's destruction of Hazor,
Okay.
because the 14th century would be too late for an early date.
Well, simply it's complicated, right? Anyway, so Hazor was a huge city, destroyed by Joshua, by Barak. Maybe it's the same story. Some people claim that it's actually the same story, told in different ways. We don't know. We know that it was in ruins for a while, 100, 200 years, something like that. And then it was rebuilt again, only the top area by the Israelites, kings, and they had a center here. The Bible refers to King Solomon as the builder of Hazor. Again, like in Megiddo, we have the debate about the timeline. But what we're going to do, we're going to do a little circle here in the upper town to see the connections and to see things that were found here, the importance of them. And the first thing we're going to go through is the gate, the Solomonic
Right.
gate.
One of three.
Right here. Unless you have questions. So here it's much more obvious than in Megiddo, in town. There's chambers, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, two big towers, of course. And they're right here. So it's a 6-chamber gateway. The wall continues this way, the wall that way. That's the major entrance to the city. The Israelite period, and related to King Solomon, because the gate.
Well, and the dating. The biblical record. The gate is about the right time, and of course the assumptions of the archaeologists that excavated. So Yadin did a lot of this, and then Amnon Ben Tor has been doing it for a long time, and he's turning it over to Sharon Zuckerman. So we've got, and they are all assuming the biblical record is accurate, basically accurate. Whereas some of the others, like the guy excavating at Megiddo, doesn't have that same assumption. So, just a couple of things that you're going to be seeing again at Gezer. Of course, you're going to see the 6-chamber gate. Just how a gate works. You've got these chambers. Right in front of the chambers, you see the wall comes in. That's where the wooden door would have been. Okay, so actually at Dan, we'll see the sockets that the door hinged on, that it would turn on. The stone sockets on either side, and the doors would hinge in, and then of course they would be bolted shut. And just inside for defense, you would have your guards stationed. You'd have another door here, so difficult access for an attacker getting in, along with the towers, of course, and the roof, etc. Another thing that you're going to see at Gezer, this is called a casemate wall. So you've got an outer wall, and you've got an inner wall, and you've got rooms in between. And so you'll see that at least partly at Gezer. There is a casemate wall, and then it sort of seems to go to a single wall.
You see it mainly in Masada.
You see it at Masada, exactly. So the casemate was used. It could be used for just about anything, I suppose. Storage. People could live there, but they would have access to those other rooms. Right over here, you will see, I think, they have changed. They have excavated more of this.
Yes, we have.
Just on the other side of that wall,
We're probably going to see it from up there.
we'll see it better. We'll talk about it up there. Anyway, some of the things that you'll see, we'll talk about walls and gates when we get to Gezer as well. So, you all understand the casemate? You'll see that? Okay.
Is this the top of the wall?
One of the things we just walked past, which you may see again, but in that big excavation right here, it had the circular pit we just walked past, and it was the cobbles. You saw the little rocks? That's where they found them. So that's a cobble floor, or cobble. That's what they call cobblestone, obviously. So you see some more of it here, along with pillar bases. So you've got Lisa standing on a pillar base. That's a big basalt pillar base. They would have had large pillars standing on top of those. This up here was, well, perhaps an altar. Lots of bones found here, either for feasting or for sacrifice. But
Those cut stones, were they part of that?
yeah.
They were like, okay.
Well, obviously the really square ones are new ones that they put on there. The really rounded ones are old ones that they discovered there.
Try to make sure that you will see the difference between new and old.
Down here, all these are standing stones. The basin there was cultic. The standing stones are obviously cultic. They have little platforms in front where the worshiper would perhaps leave an offering for the gods or a representative of themselves sometimes. So they know that this was a cult center, and the temple would have been this direction, which has led to a lot of confusion as to what this building is. So you have one excavator, and I'm trying to remember which is which. I believe Amnon said he thought it was a palace, and Sharon thought it was a temple. They did find several images inside. There is a room in the back that has a base for the image, and the image was not on the base. It was in the main floor, broken with the head and hands cut off. It was at least 2 stories. You've got a foundation wall made of field stones. It's about 5 meters thick. And you've got then these basalt ashlars around forming sort of a base, and then it was built with mud brick on top of that. So lined with cedar, holding large amphora full of olive oil, and the fire, of course, whipped that into a pretty high state. So they know it was at least 2 stories tall. They're not sure exactly what it was. But this is, let's see, this down here, Middle Bronze? Late Bronze?
Yeah, if I remember.
I think that's right. So,
You see, when King Solomon builds his city, built the gate, it's obviously already above many ruins before his time. Okay, right here. This was not here anymore. When Solomon built his temple, his city, this is already gone, destroyed.
yeah, he's on top of all of that. So,
The archaeologists, when they started to dig here, they found things, ruins above. They just removed them to go further down. And we will see later that they sometimes removed it exactly the way it was found. For us to see how it looked like, but not in the same place, because they wanted to see this, to go further down to see more. Welcome to go in. There's a group there.
when you walk through, just notice you can see the mud brick on the side, and of course the old ones are there originally, and they've added new ones to show it. They've also added some cedar where there was already cedar before. They know it because they had the burns.
system of Jerusalem. We even walked through the water system of Megiddo, facing the water system. So, this water system is really similar to the one in Megiddo, in the idea and also in the time line, having more or less in the same time. Some people will say the same king. Dug both of them. And the only difference is that in this case, again, they started digging inside the city, inside the walls, towards the water spring. Usually goes out. In this case, they dug a shaft, but then a tunnel that went to the water source itself with a staircase. Still, you come into the water from inside, through the mountain, chisel the mountain, all the way down to the water. In this case, people have to walk down to the water. But it's the same idea. Again, you want
Go ahead.
So, we are on the highest place in the whole city, which is the best place for a fortress. In the Canaanite time, the whole hill that we toured was the upper city, fortified area. In the Israelite period, we only have this area, and so they went all the way up here to build the fortress. But not at first, probably. First they used this area spiritually. And we found this little worship corner right here, dated to the Israelite period. And it's a little problem because Israelites are not supposed to worship here. They have Jerusalem and the temple. But if you read the Bible, you can find the connections. Kind of makes sense because we know that the Israelites were worshipping all over the land. Again, depends on the dating. You always have the problem of who built what. And was it built here during the United Kingdom, before the United Kingdom, or after? Something that I don't think they decided yet. Because if it's during the United Kingdom, it's one problem, but we know people build high places and worship areas all over. If it's after the United Kingdom, then we are in the Kingdom of Israel, and obviously they don't go to the temple in Jerusalem. Makes more sense. Anyway, later on in time, a fortress was built here, a very big fortress. It was the fortification of the whole city, guarding the whole area, inside and out, of course.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just, I think the debate is probably more whether it's the United Kingdom or after, but all of this is Iron Age. All that you see is Iron Age, which is Israelite. So definitely it is Israelite. The other thing that I wanted to add here is that with the standing stone, which you can see here, the long skinny rock sticking up, the matzabah, they also discovered 6 articulated pig skeletons, which means that they were eating pork during the Israelite time, which fits in with Isaiah's condemnation of Israel for not keeping law. In fact, he actually mentions pork, pigs. So this is a great illustration of Israel's idolatry. We'll see more of that today. Tel Dan in particular. But so this is clearly showing that while Israel had a pretty strong fortress here, they were clearly turning away from the Lord, and of course this ultimately is destroyed by the Assyrians. So, and I think you've all mentioned why the road went right by here. We saw the roads. Remember the roads that you saw at Megiddo yesterday with the topographical map, and the roads that went right past Megiddo, and it comes right past Hazor. Hazor was so important because it guards really its commerce. And it's military might, but it's commerce, it's taxes, it's being able to control what comes in and what goes out. So, very significant.
Right.
Questions?
Pictures.
Pictures? Head back down to the four-room house.
Question about the trade route. Where exactly it was going on? Well, I mentioned it a little bit about, not a little bit, more about it. In the Jezreel Valley, after we leave Hazor on the way further north, I will talk about the valley that you see from here. And this valley, kind of like similar to Jezreel Valley, in a good winter, might be covered with swamps and stuff like that. Basically, in the ancient times, people looked for the valleys to walk through, but they didn't build the road or walk in the center of the valley. They would usually walk on the hillside, close, very close to the valley itself, but not in the center of it, which means over here, probably something like that. In the hillside, of course, looking for areas with water, which again, the water comes out from the hillside. As far as I know, right?
I don't know, I was told it was right over here, but I don't
Well,
have any
it
idea.
goes like that.
But the city
Yeah,
is
going out
right.
that
My thing. The
city's right beside the road.
Beside
Right
the road.
beside
Yeah, because all of
Yeah.
that is swampy, so they
Right.
can't move armies, they can't move
Right.
big wagons, all that stuff through there.
Like it's really right there.
Well, yeah, but you can't. If somebody wants to go on the other side of the valley, they could. But if the road's
Okay.
coming right here, you built the city by the road.
Okay.
But this is the best way to go. Actually, both of these structures, you have a four-room house here, very significant Israelite house. You're going to see a great example of a four-room house. I'm sure it's still there at Gezer because they have uncovered last season, which was actually 2 years ago. They uncovered the largest four-room house in Israel. It's a pillared four-room house, and it's a Judean four-room house, which means the pillars are a little bit taller than this. I think that's right. That's what I was told, something like that anyway. You've got a lot of neat stuff in here, but 4 rooms basically means you've got a courtyard in the middle, you've got a room on the right, a room on the left, and a room in the back. That's the long room in the back. So they did their, now how it was roofed is, I don't know if they've decided. I've seen 2 different ways. One is where the center courtyard roof was open, another one where it was closed and the smoke went out the windows. So, but a lot of the fire in the middle, you've got, here you have an olive press, we'll see more of that. But this is an olive press by weight. You put the olives in the baskets, and you put the press on top, put some weight on it, and the oil comes out. That's the virgin oil the first time. Then you've got more weight, push it harder, more oil comes out, and you get 3 pressings, maybe 4, and then the last mash is fed to the whatever animals are used for burning, for fuel.
When you see a house like that, you know it's from the Israelite period, Iron Age. You mention it in Jerusalem, the city of David, in the ruins. And you see it much better, much obvious. Same period of time.
Would this have been a clan, like a whole clan would live in here, or how many families would occupy something?
Probably a family with maybe a couple of generations, but
Yeah.
you have, typically, you've got animals on the first floor and you'll have
Okay.
sleeping on the second floor.
Okay.
So,
Would this have been an industry for this family, or was this found in many homes? Do you know, does anybody know? I mean,
I don't think you'd have an olive press in every
yeah,
No,
no,
You just have,
no, right.
Family trade.
yeah,
Family
probably
trade,
probably the
that's what
family trade.
Okay, okay.
I'm not sure what the basin is for. Do you know? The basalt basin. In this particular one, you've got a cobblestone floor. You have different kinds of floor. Sometimes it's just beaten earth. Sometimes you'll have a plastered floor. And the one we have has part plastered, and I think there's some cobble and some just dirt. So.
Would the second floor also have a roof over it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
In fact, probably the courtyard is open up to the roof of the second floor, so the rooms around.
Wow.
But the livestock would be down here.
Yeah.
So this would be kind of like housing and a business.
Housing and a what?
And a business.
Oh.
Not,
Well,
entrepreneur.
yeah, they wouldn't have their own. Yeah, they
Yeah.
wouldn't have a separate house
Right.
for a business. I mean,
Right.
government buildings, but not
Okay.
private,
Okay.
most likely.
You'll see it tomorrow in Bethsaida. Different houses relate to different professions.
Hmm.
Well, it's not the same time period. The idea is the same.
The room behind it is a storage room. They decided not a stable. That was a debate for a while, and that also has been moved. So both of these were moved stone by stone. I mean, they took all the stones, they moved and put them back exactly the same way. Well, almost exactly the same way. So that you could see what they had discovered, because in order to do archaeology, you have to destroy it.
Yeah.
So you find a great find like this, and then you have to go down through it to get to the next level. So to solve that problem, they took it and put it over here so you could still see it.
What are all these things lying in the...
Those are all basalt pieces that they've taken from the, I think they came from up here. And so, ashlars and pillars and
In almost every
Color
archaeological
bases.
site, you have that is open to tourists, at least I don't know about Gezer. You will have an area where they laid all the findings that they haven't decided if to, rebuild and put it back, or just leave it as is.
we don't have enough to do that yet.
Yeah.
So,
We'll see. Until you get to the Chan, then you'll see a lot of it.